Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at my meat day nutrition, and we're going to look at three kind of foundational pillars that I believe set you up for success on meat day. We're going to be talking about some misconceptions that some people have, things that I see people doing maybe incorrectly, and mistakes that I've made and how I've made those adjustments. So starting off, we're taking a look at food. Obviously, food is a big deal whenever you're talking about performance and your body. I would guess if you're getting ready for a powerlifting competition, you are probably at least cognizant of the food that you put in your body already. Now, one of these things that people go wrong with that I see is they approach their meat day nutrition and their food just like they approach an everyday diet, or the diet that they had, even worse, cutting for the meat, right? And that's something to keep in mind. If you've been cutting for the meat, obviously you've been using food that's optimal for losing that weight that's appropriate. But on meat day, you want the food and the fuel that will propel your performance, but not do anything else, right? We're not worried about tomorrow. I always joke with my girlfriend Natalie about how meat day is like the end of my world, and I don't think beyond that. So once you get there, you really need to be selective because you can only eat so much food in a day. So I just kind of broke it down into protein, fats, and carbs. These are our three macronutrients. Now, as a power lifter, protein is one of the most important things to build muscle, but on meat day, protein is actually not all that important because we're not trying to build any muscle on meat day. We're just trying to get that muscle to do the work. So a lot of people will shove down like meats or protein shakes that are gonna sit in their stomach. And ultimately, protein is not super efficient at breaking down and actually being used for energy when compared to especially carbs when we get there. So protein is not my focus on meat day. Now, kind of leading into that, fats are like the next step up, right? Fats are the most difficult form of macronutrient for your body to break down, which slows that digestive process even more. So if you're trying to get the most efficient energy out of your body at a given time, fats are not going to be the choice. And this is one of the original mistakes that I made. I would really love things like peanut butter and zebra cakes. Zebra cakes were my crux originally, which they are high in carbs, which is nice, but something like peanut butter that's high in fat, or sometimes you'll see people eating Chinese food, things like that, it's going to slow down that digestion because it hits your stomach and it's kind of just like a brick as your body's trying to pull apart these fats, and it's not super efficient. And you have to remember that on meat day, you're in a time crunch, right? So all of that food has to digest in the set amount of time for you to perform. So that leaves us with carbs. And this is what we really need to focus on meat day, and specifically not just any carbs, but simple carbohydrates. And by simple carbohydrates, I'm talking about sugars and non-fibrous carbs. So not as many fruits and vegetables and things like that. While they can be helpful, that fiber can once again slow down the digestive process. And the last thing that we want is to have an upset stomach on meat day. So, some ideas here: rice cakes. And full disclosure, I learned this from my coach, Bill McCarthy, with Get the Lift. He's a big fan of rice cakes. I really like dry cereal. And then, most importantly here, candy. Because a candy, and it's a trope at this point, powerlifters love Sour Patch Kids. Well, this is why they are simple carbohydrates that your body can process like this, right? You want to get them in and you want to get that energy out as quickly as possible. Now, some people do like to throw in some of these things because they'll give you that full feeling. Some people don't like to lift on what feels like an empty stomach. And with these, because they can process so quickly and they're not heavy, then they may feel like an empty stomach, which I've gotten used to over the years, and that's kind of what I would suggest, because you don't want to be bloated or uncomfortable on the platform, in my opinion. So this is what I stick to. Now, I just want to stress, okay, it's going to depend on your meat. Local meats tend to run long. You're talking 8-hour days. So if you have someone who's just not eating throughout this whole time, you see some people, they just will not eat. By deadlift, it's inevitable. You're going to have some performance drop off from that lack of calories. Like, it cannot be done where you don't. Excuse me. So, simple carbs. This is our focus on meat day. Candy, dry cereal, rice cakes. Keep those calories up, but you want to keep them flowing in your body as we go. Next up, we have hydration, which this is just as important as food. You know, these two go in tandem, and without either of these, you cannot perform your best on meat day. Obviously, with hydration, water is going to come into play, okay? And it is a balance between water and electrolytes. So it's not just how much water you drink, right? You may pack 1.5 gallons of water. For me, it is not unusual for me to pound through 8 to 10 liters of water throughout a competition, because usually they're hot and you're sitting and you want to be hydrated. So if you do not consume the electrolytes with the water, because that water is going to pull the electrolytes that you do have in your cells out, you will become dehydrated. So you need a balance of these two, right? I really like the Liquid IV brand supplement. Pedialytes are fantastic. I know Gatorade has a Pedialyte substitute now. And with your electrolytes, you want to make sure that you have both sodium and potassium. Because if you get one, usually it's sodium that people get, and not the other, then you can once again get yourself into trouble still with cramping, even though you're consuming these, okay? The last thing I'll say here, a great addition to my gym bag, and once again, this has come from my coach, Bill, pack some mustard. Mustard has sodium from the vinegar, and it has turmeric in there, which will once again help with cramping. I personally hate mustard, right? I do not eat it on my own time, but on a meat day, I will finish an entire bottle of mustard because I'm just trying to get shots of these electrolytes in because I'm downing so much water. The last thing I'll say here before we move on is if you are cutting weight for a competition, and especially if you have a 2-hour weigh-in like I do, I see so many people be so serious about the cut until they weigh in, and then they're like relieved, whew. And for every kilo of water weight that you cut from your body, you need to drink 1 liter at least of water back in to replenish that kilogram of water weight. So if I cut 5 kilos and then after weigh-ins I only drink 1 liter of water, that's 4 kilograms of body weight that I have not replenished, right? And I'm just setting myself up for failure whenever it comes to meat day performance that way. So finally, with your hydration, the question is, do you want sugar? For me, I personally like sugary drinks such as Gatorade and Powerade, those kind of mixes. That allows me to not have to eat as much of this stuff throughout the day. I'm getting some of those liquid calories while I'm getting the hydration. Some people may not prefer that, and that's totally okay. It's just all going to be about balancing these two and making sure you have enough simple carbs and water. Oh, excuse me. It's dry in here. Allergies are starting to get to me. Finally, we have meat day supplements. I prefer to keep it simple. You know, do not change your routine just because it's meat day. Caffeine is obviously going to be a go-to. It's going to be your bioenergetic. You may use this in your pre-workout. I prefer to continue with my normal pre-workout routine throughout the meet. Pack caffeine. Creatine is not a must. It's going to kind of act as the salts do and draw some water into your body, but it is not necessary. But if it's in your routine, I would definitely keep it there. And then I also like to, draw this out throughout the day. So we'll give these some checks. Draw that out, maybe 200 milligrams of caffeine before squat, and then maybe I'll take some more before bench or deadlift. That way, because you're going to get this peak in your caffeine reaction in the beginning, obviously, but if you don't take caffeine again, you might have this tapered off kind of crash from your caffeine. So you want to sustain this throughout the meet. My biggest recommendation with supplements is don't change anything, and don't worry about the protein supplementation, such as protein powders and whatnot. Those can upset your stomach, and they're not all that useful, right? That's digestive time that you could be using otherwise with the rice cakes and dry cereal. Okay, so just to kind of wrap this up, a lot of people think that meat day food should be exciting or fun. I used to, right? I used to eat zebra cakes and Doritos and chips. I was so excited. What I've learned from high-level competition is eating on meat day is just as much of a job as cutting for the meat and the rest of your training. So treat it like so, and then you can enjoy your meals after the meet's over. So hopefully that provides a nice overview for you all as far as my perspective on your meat day nutrition. Basically keep it simple, only put in your body what you need, don't waste time digesting things, and most importantly, have fun and perform your best. So if you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. We're slowly growing the channel, which is super exciting. We just passed 300 subscribers, and check out my other videos. I'm kind of growing and having fun with this. Shoot me a comment if you have any questions. And until next time, happy lifting.